Hi everyone. So I'm finally back after a sort of a long absence, and it was because of my move. So the reason why I didn't post last week is because my husband and I are in the middle of a move right now. Um, just to sort of give you more information about that, we're moving from Nashville, Tennessee to New York City, and we'll be finally moving into our apartment next week. So I'll be able to set things up a little bit more, and then I'll finally find a spot where I can film all of my videos, so that'll be very helpful. And thank you so much for sort of sticking around through that time. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the books that I've read in March. I didn't read a lot, I actually slacked quite a bit. I only read 4 books, which is pretty bad compared to the past couple of months, but I'm slowly getting into the swing of things, and hopefully I'll be able to read more in April, though it's not looking like that so far. So let's get right to it. So the first book that I read is Dorothy Must Die, and it's the first book in a series, and this is basically a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, but it's not really a retelling though, it's like what happens after The Wizard of Oz, and the main character's name is Amy, and she's not a character that was mentioned before in The Wizard of Oz. So she's just a new person coming to Oz who discovers that everything is completely different. And the Dorothy is an evil dictator, and all of the other characters are pretty evil themselves. So it's just a whole other thing going on there. I really liked it because the approach was very unique. I didn't expect that from this book. I didn't picture it that way at all before I picked up the actual book, and I was really pleased with where it was going. Side note though, it is pretty gruesome and the characters are pretty vicious, but with that being said, it was still a really entertaining read, and it left off on sort of a cliffhanger, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where the book goes in the future, and I'll definitely have to read the second book. The next book that I read is Cinder, which is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, and I finally got around to reading it, and I'm so excited that I did because I really enjoyed that book. It was a very well written book. It was very interesting. Cinder as a character I thought was very likable. I thought she was smart, she was reasonable, she wasn't, self-absorbed like a lot of other characters tend to be. She was just a very good person in general. I thought the plot line was very interesting. I was genuinely, invested. I was mad at the bad people in the story, and I just wanted to know what happened next. I read this book within a couple of days, so it was just that interesting. I'm really looking forward to reading the next book. So I'm just looking forward to seeing where the story goes. I was definitely really, really pleased with the Lunar Chronicles. The next book was Bazaar of Bad Dreams by Stephen King, and this is a collection of short stories, and I've mentioned before I like Stephen King's books a lot. They're very good, they're very interesting, exciting, there's lots going on. This one was kind of an in-between for me. I really enjoyed some of the stories, and I didn't really like some other ones, so it was okay in my books. But it's definitely not the best collection of short stories by him, in my opinion, but it's definitely worth a read if you are a fan of his work. This one, there's not a lot of scary ones. They were kind of weird and unusual, but there were only a couple that were like kind of a little bit terrifying. And I think that I tend to like the terrifying ones more than just really odd / weird ones. So this was okay for me, but I definitely liked some of his other stuff better. Finally, the last book that I read last month was We Were Liars, and I've seen this book a lot on BookTube. I've heard great things about it, and I didn't have high expectations going in, but I sort of expected it to be a pretty decent book. What I took away from it was that none of the characters were very likable, and even worse than that, the main character wasn't very likable at all, and the rest of the characters I didn't really get to know past what their first name was and who they were in relation to the main character, which I thought was really odd because I just feel like you usually get to know a little bit more about them, but in this case they were very flat and there was not much depth to them, which made them very unlikable for me. The plot was interesting, and there was definitely a twist at the end which I didn't see coming. It was a pretty big surprise, but it didn't feel like it made up for all the other things that were lacking in the book. And at the end of the day, I didn't really feel for the characters very much, so I feel like that sort of took away from my reading experience. But other than that, it was a pretty quick read. It was okay. If I had to do it over again, I don't know that I would pick up this book, but I feel like it was good to see what people who enjoyed it meant when they said that this was a really good book. I definitely see the parts of it that they really liked, so it was worth the read. So that's it for my March books. Please let me know if you read any of these books before and what you thought about them, and also let me know what you're reading right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.